Hi, I'm John. Welcome to American Enlightenment. Toby, last week we talked about your experiences with unseen Americans, and we talked about continuing that journey that we started with that. Okay. Um, Looking into the future here for American Enlightenment, what I'd like to do is arrange a trip to Mount Adams. It's a UFO hotspot. I'm sorry, UAPs. Correct myself. A UAP hotspot.
Oh, I don't mean to cut you off, but are you not supposed to say UFOs nowadays?
Um,
I know they changed the lingo. Is it like,
it, the thing is, UFO means unidentified object. UAP means unidentified aerial phenomena.
mm-hmm.
So for the people out there that are not on board with this whole thing yet, so we'll go UAP.
Okay.
Besides, that's what the government's calling them.
Yeah, yeah,
So even though they got footage of our pilots chasing them,
yeah, yeah.
it's a phenomena. Yeah, not an
I,
object.
I was curious because, they've changed a lot of the wording for internet stuff nowadays. Like now you got to say, like, if someone does something to themselves, you have to say they unalived themselves now instead of using the K word or the M word. Yeah, exactly. So, like, yeah, that's where we're at. So that's why I asked if UFO was made into one of those type of deals.
I think it was more the government rather than trying to say that that hey, look, there's an alien spacecraft or an alien drone flying above.
Yeah.
It's an unidentified aerial phenomenon because we don't know what it is.
Okay.
So I want to put together a trip to go to Mount Adams. So we're looking at bringing two camera crews, FLIR cameras that for hot and cold sensor cameras, and we're probably talking about a 4-day trip.
Sweet.
Okay. The other things that I'd like to do with American Enlightenment for upcoming episodes, we dabbled on alternative medicine, but I'd like to do an in-depth series on it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd also like to do an in-depth series on alternative energy as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any topics that you've thought of that we should start digging into?
No, you mentioned it earlier today, paranormal stuff. I do think that paranormal stuff is interesting. I think it would be fun to go with ghost hunters, do that kind of stuff. Because there's all kinds of people into that stuff, and I do think that would be fun. I think that would be an adventure for all of us to do something like that because it is, the same reason we went to the tunnel. There's like that intrigue there. That's kind of like, what the heck's this all about? So, and as somebody that is kind of like in the middle when it comes to ghosts and all that, like, I would love to go see it for myself. So.
Now, for Shoot the Messenger, you brought up about talking about controversies and conspiracies, and also controversial topics as well.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to go with that?
Oh, I Shoot the Messenger?
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt like Shoot the Messenger, as much as I don't want to say it was kind of a filler show, it was definitely something that came up with on a whim to try and throw something on Mondays, have something for the channel that's, keep things going for us and not really have a particular thing that we need to talk about, right? It's so open. It's like Shoot the Messenger, obviously comes from Don't Shoot the Messenger, meaning, hey, we're just the middleman here. We're just talking about things that we're interested in. Don't get mad at us. You know what I mean? So I like the openness of Shoot the Messenger. I like the fact that we can talk about whatever we want. And it's like, hey, we're just talking. Don't get mad at
us. For upcoming episodes that we're going to be doing, I've never asked you this. Have you ever seen a UAP or a UFO? Or
no? So I used to live in Ocean Shores, and so we used to see a lot of weird stuff above the ocean when I lived there. But us residents that lived in Ocean Shores would usually just write them off as ships way out in the ocean, or because sometimes you can't tell when you live on the ocean. You can't necessarily tell if something's floating or if it's flying. It's hard to tell sometimes because it's so far out. And there's been times where people are like, look at that thing flying in the sky, and then you realize about half hour later that it's just a boat floating across the water, and you couldn't tell from like that far away. But with that being said, we've had lots of things that we thought were UFOs, things that we thought were weird. But like I said to you one time, the only time I ever had like a real experience that I felt like it was a UFO was I was probably like 7. And you know, when you're a kid, it's a little tougher to trust your judgment. But I was 7. We were out in the cul-de-sac, and I was playing with my big brother. We were out there just messing around. I looked up, saw this weird disc thing flying through the sky. Because I was a kid, I was naive. I was like, what is that? My brother goes, that's a UFO. And I was like, Mom. So I ran inside, told Mom there's a UFO out there. Mom came out. Mom was like, that looks like a UFO. She even believed it was a UFO. She was like, I don't know what that is. So that's the only time in my life I feel like I might have saw one, because even my mother, if it was my imagination as a kid, even my mother confirmed it, or at least thought that's what she saw herself. So I think that's about the only experience me personally have had with any kind of UAPs.
But don't you think that you had the same experience and they witnessed it with you? That couldn't be in your imagination.
Sure, that
sounds pretty verified.
Yeah, and that's why I bring it up, because my mom.
Have your family talked about it since?
No. It was just one of those weird things. I mean, so much to where, like, when I got to my 20s, I would think back, and this is weird, but I would almost thought it was a glowing frisbee, right?
It sounds like a UFO.
Because you play with a glowing frisbee, what it looks like. That's what my brain sees when I go back to that day as a kid. So, yeah, I see like a glowing frisbee.
I had an experience with my parents when I was 4 years old. And there was an event that happened in Seattle. There was UAPs above the space. You know, that's probably 1967, and I saw them out the playroom window. We lived on Capitol Hill in Seattle, and there was a lot of them. They were making patterns, and I watched them for a while. And I yelled down to my mom. She was downstairs, and I asked her to come up. And I go, well, what are those? What is this? And she said, I don't know. She yelled for my father, and he came up. And this is, a guy who's a staunch Greek immigrant, right? Matter of fact kind of guy. Never wasn't into science fiction at all.
Yeah.
Came up, looked out the window, and he goes, I don't know. He goes, I looked back. It was kind of funny. He goes, said to my mom. He said, well, Alice. He goes, I think maybe some drunks shooting fireworks off. Maybe. She goes, no, Larry, those are not fireworks. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing that he said, well, they're not helicopters. I remember them talking like that. And that was my first experience. I saw...
so you saw a group of them.
Oh, quite. And they were making patterns and weaving around each other. And it was almost like if you watch cells in the bloodstream, like moving around, but there was a little gap between them. And they were weaving around each other and made a pattern. They went into an intricate formation, and then they just kind of just started disappearing one by one. And then the weird thing, there was a blue light on the horizon that was going across the horizon, and that's when they started to line up and started going away.
Oh, weird.
So the next time I was working at night, and I saw a triangular formation flying towards Crystal Mountain. And it was just the way they were moving is three red dots moving across the sky, and it was just the speed at what they were moving was unnatural. And all of a sudden they went into a formation and then went back into the triangle. So helicopters and military, why would they do that?
Yeah. So.
The next time, one of the most dramatic instances was with my family. This was in Yelm, Washington, and we were in my Lexus, and I remember my son in the back seat said, he goes, Dad, he goes, what is that? And I looked over to my left, and I go, what? He goes, that. And I go, I don't see anything. And he says, that right there, and he puts his hand up from the back seat right past my left eye, and he goes, look there. And there was this little tiny black dot, and I got pictures of it. and it's just flying across like the sky, and then it goes over. My daughter's in the back seat, and my ex is over here to my right, and it comes over, and then it stops in midair over by the Cascade Mountain Range, and then it just descends and starts to go down. And to this day, if I bring it up with my daughter Kaylee, she gets flustered and doesn't want to talk about it. And so it was funny because I remember my ex, I had the sunroof opened up when I was trying to take a picture of it. The camera phone wouldn't work while it was flying over, and then when I got off to the side, then it worked.
Oh.
And it's, you know, I mean, this is like 7 years ago now, 2017. Yeah, it's 7 years ago. I remember I jumped out of the car and she's like, "Come on, you know, let's just go home." And I'm like, "Yeah, there's not an everyday event that you see, you know, something like this, you know, flying through." And then the other, excuse me, the other time I went to Mount Adams with some friends this summer because it's a UFO hotspot, and I went up there. Brought some cameras with me. Cameras didn't work very well, but three nights in a row I saw things I couldn't explain. They were not planes, didn't move correctly. Couple of different times we saw objects that almost looked like they had a cloaking device they just turned on and just like they flickered away. And the first night we were there, the sky was lit up. The second night I saw a couple. Third night, a few more than the second night. But the first night I was there was like, it was off the rails. I mean, the sky just lit up. So, so Mount Adams is not too far from us.
Yeah, as an adult, I would love to see something like that. For sure.
Well, my thing is we get a couple cabins and spend, I would say, probably a week, and just do nothing but like filming. I'd like to take some equipment, I guess, flare cameras that they're very specialized. So I'll let you and the crew figure that part out. And then you brought up, we were talking about teaming up with some ghost hunters. Have you ever had a paranormal experience in the house? Like,
yeah, a couple actually. That's so okay. So the whole Ouija board thing. So when so when my mom, I mean, it was literally Milton Bradley. Okay, so like it was almost like a board game, and my mom had told us don't mess with that. My mom said stay away from it, don't mess with it, because we got it for Christmas from somebody, from like an aunt or something. So I wanted nothing to do with it, and I was kind of creeped out. But my mom told us to stay away from it. So one night I had my friends over to my house. I lived out in Tumwater. I had some friends over, and we were doing, you know, and we were messing with the Ouija board. And I mean, I just, when you do that and it moves, you just assume the people you're doing it with are moving it. No one really, I mean, it takes a firm belief to actually be like, oh, this thing's moving by itself. That's not where my brain was. I was like, my friends are moving this. This isn't really talking to us. And next thing you know, my mom had worked. She worked at 11 at night to 7 in the morning. So us kids stayed at home by ourselves all night while my mom was at work. And so we'd scare ourselves, you know, because we were home by ourselves. And, you know, we're 13 years old, and we start playing with this, and all of a sudden, all the lights in the house turn on. The lights were off. We had them all off. We had a candle lit, and we had the Ouija board. Well, all the lights turned on. Now, if they turned off, that's one thing. I mean, the power could have gone out. But they all turned on, and that creeped us out. So we freaked out, started screaming around the house, scared for our life, thought we were all going to die, freaked out. The phone started ringing. And then when I answered the phone, I figured it was my mom or something. Because it's like 1 in the morning. And I answered the phone, they hang up. The minute I answer the phone, they hang up. So I'm like, okay. I hang up like this. As soon as I do this, it rings again. So I go, no one's talking again. I go, ring. The minute it touches the dial, this is a landline, it would just ring, 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 ring. So I unplugged the phone because I got creeped out about that. And then yeah, me and my friends just pretty much were freaked out all night. I never messed with a Ouija board again after that. I don't know what happened that night. I don't know why the lights turned on. I have no clue why any of that was happening, but it really convinced me that something weird was happening. And then in the same house, my little brother was sleeping on the couch one night because my grandma was sleeping in his bed. She was in town visiting. And my brother wakes me up in the middle of the night bawling because he said he saw a ghost. And this house was weird anyway. And I said, what do you mean he saw a ghost? He's like, I want to sleep with you. You know, I'm in high school. My brother's in like 8th grade. I'm like, what do you want to sleep with me for? You know? He's like, I'm scared down there. I want to come up here. I'm like, why? He's like, I just saw a ghost. And he said he woke up on the couch. There was a ball of light like this big, an orb, floating above him. He said it didn't look like a ghost like you see in the movies. He said it was a ball of light. It was sitting right in his face. He said about 3 feet above him. He got up, freaked out, tried to run upstairs. When he got to the stairs, he said he got such a bad stomach ache, cramps, that it dropped him to his knees and he couldn't even walk and just sat there like just in pain on the stairs, couldn't move. Once the ball disappeared, the light, his pain went away in his stomach, and then he ran up to my room and woke me up. Of course, I'm half asleep. I didn't even really take him serious when he was telling me about it. So when he woke up the next morning, he told me about the whole story. But my brother still was pretty convinced he saw a ghost that night. So.
And after this incident happened, how long after the Ouija board incident?
I'd say a couple months. And then we had one more incident in that house where I was home alone by myself. My brother wasn't home. It was just me. And I heard all the, like an offset pan or something crash in the cupboard down in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. I thought it just fell or something. I started, and I was by myself upstairs sleeping. That freaked me out. So I put the blanket over my head and just went to sleep. Yeah, I was like that. I was home alone. I didn't know what to think. So I went to sleep. Next day, my mom gets home at 7 in the morning, and she says to me, why were there pots and pans all over the kitchen floor? And I said, what? Because I heard that happen, but I didn't throw no pots and pans all over the kitchen floor. And then I was thinking maybe they fell out of the cupboard or something, but she said they were all over the kitchen floor. And I was like, there's no way. I did not do that. But I heard that happen. So that was another thing. So did I see a ghost? No. But that was a weird, weird situation because it was in the same house. It was within the same 3-month span. And yeah.
And after the incident with the pots and pans, was there any more after that?
That was it. That's the last one I can remember. Yeah.
You know, it's funny when Ouija boards, a lot of times how people don't mess with that because you'll open up a portal or a doorway.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe?
Shoot, I don't know. I will say this: when we first got that house, my mom, we had never lived in a 2-story house before. So when we looked at this house, it had stairs, and so me and my brother were super excited. We're like, oh, we're about to live in a 2-story house. This is gonna be awesome. So we liked the house a lot. But when we were walking out, she asked us what we thought of the house, and we both said it's cool, but it's kind of spooky. So we both had weird vibes about the house before we moved in there. Yeah, it had kind of a dark energy there. And I'd say the only other, I moved in, I had a roommate for a little bit. I moved into her house, and she had a problem with a picture on her wall of her grandpa, which I thought was super interesting because it would hang on the wall, and her dog would start barking at the picture and then chase something around the house, around the ceiling. So she'd bark at the picture and then start running around chasing something around on the ceiling over and over again, to a point where she was like, I think it's my grandpa's spirit or something, and my dog can see it. So my dog is always like focused on that picture and then chases it around the house kind of deal. So she had someone come in with sage and, do the house or whatever. And the dog never did that again. So I thought that was interesting. It stopped immediately. So
when I grew up on Capitol Hill, we had a house. And this house I grew up in, this is after the UFO thing. It was just a weird house. I had the basement. I used to have these little metal cars used to play on, right? And they had little pedal things. You see them on Pawn Stars, So
Mm-hmm.
they're like vintage toys. I had 2 of them. And I remember I was rolling around down this basement, and the floor was painted red, and um, there was a furnace that was painted silver, and the walls were painted like white. And I remember being down there, and I'd go down there and play down there, and I always felt like there was something with me when I was down there. And I never really thought about it too much as a kid. And then I started having things like where I'd wake up at night and I'd hear like somebody walking up the stairs. There's 2-story house as well. Somebody walking up the stairs, and then I saw a white apparition a couple of different times, like by my bed.
Yeah. Oh.
And that happened a couple of different times. But the background on the house, my mom had told me that they had that when they had moved in the whole basement, the furnace was actually red. The walls were red. My dad painted those before I started having memories.
Yeah.
And so the whole house, the whole basement was painted red.
Wow.
Then the next thing I found out was that the guy had owned it before us. I remember my grandmother was a real staunch Catholic. So all my family is. I'm consider myself not Catholic. I'm a Christian. But my mom mentioned something or other, and my mom turned around. She goes, "Don't say that name." She thought I mentioned somebody's name in the house, and I looked at her, and my grandmother goes, "Well, that's not." She said something to me in Slavic, and that's not what he said. And then she told me to behave myself. And I asked my mom. I said, "What was the problem with that name?" She goes, "That was the person on this house before." And I asked her. I go, "So what's the big problem?" She said, "I don't want to talk about it." And I asked my grandmother, and she goes, "I don't want to talk about it either." And so I asked him a couple of different times, and finally my mom told me that the guy who owned the house before had left. My grandmother knew him because this guy was from some part of Eastern Europe. And she introduced my parents to him, and then my parents bought the house from this guy. But he left a couple of trunks there. He said he would send for them when he got back, quote, to the old country. Well, they never heard from him ever again. Oh. And so years later, my parents opened up the trunk with my grandmother, and I remember when the priest came to the house, I didn't know that this was what happened. They opened these trunks, and there was black cloaks, there was candles and bells, and it freaked all of them out because they're staunch Catholics.
Yeah.
And then the basement was painted all red. Yeah. I mean, even the furnace was painted red.
Yeah.
So I remember a priest coming and blessing the house, and my grandmother says, "The house will be fine now. We'll have a priest come and bless it." I was a little kid when this all happened, and I never thought much about it. But I look back on it now. It's like I never have had experiences like that ever since.
Yeah.
Was just in that house.
Yeah.
So
the intriguing part about ghosts to me is I kind of want to know what you're actually like what I want to see it firsthand. You see stuff online, you see stuff on camera, you see stuff, or you hear stories from people, but you know how bad I just want to just see one, have one literally right in front of my face, to where I can verify that and tell people I believe in ghosts because I've seen one, and because there's always that fine line with people out there that have seen ghosts where you don't know if they've actually seen them or if they just have convinced themselves that they've seen them, and I feel like there's a fine line there because if you believe in something enough and you look for it enough, eventually you're going to see it, And so I want to personally see one in front of me,
I think that a lot of times the stories I've heard from other people, they woke up in the middle of the night, or they were going to towards, or 3 o'clock or 3:30 seems to be a weird time for that type of thing. Yeah, you hear a lot about that, but a lot of times you hear about people, stories they tell you, their ghost stories or paranormal story, and they weren't looking for something to happen, it just happened. Or they walked into a room and they saw something and they were so stunned by it, they didn't even know what to even think about it. It just caught them off guard. So, the first time I saw UFOs or UAPs, I had no idea what I was looking at. But I look back on the whole thing now. There was no way there was any conventional helicopters, any conventional anything. It was impossible.
Do you believe in reincarnation?
I'm kind of, excuse me, I'm kind of on the fence about that.
Because you see those stories about little kids that come back. Like I watched one where a kid was talking about his old house in his neighborhood. He was like 3 years old. He was talking about the house he lived in that burned down. He talked about the street it was on. Talked about the people that lived in the house. Talked about how he died. And so one day the mom just looked into all the stuff this little 3-year-old kid was saying, and it was all true. He really did. That really was the guy's name that lived in that house. He really did burn to death in that house. He really did live on that street in that same town. And the mom was blown away. She's like, how did my 3-year-old know all that? He shouldn't know any of that. But it's one of those things where, like I said, I watched it on the internet. I watched it on television. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. But if that stuff's real, that would be super interesting. If you had a kid that all of a sudden starts telling you about his past life, you go and you do research and you find out that he's telling you the truth about everything he's saying.
Well, I think that with ghosts or the human spirit or the soul, your body is like a battery, and you have like you ever seen photographs of aura energy coming off the body? That's real. Okay, so when the body shuts down, that energy goes somewhere. It just doesn't go away.
Yeah, energy doesn't die. Yeah.
Transfers into something else. And it makes perfect sense that that if you're, I guess maybe not ready to move on, or there's something traumatic happen, or you have unresolved issues, you just don't seem to cross over. And I do believe in an afterlife, 100%.
It seems like some people do get stuck, is what it seems like. Almost like there's like a middle ground between the end and the beginning. It's like people get caught in this realm in between. I think, and that might be the ghost we talk about. But then I have so many different not weird, but different belief systems that a lot of them fall under frequency beliefs and waves. And so because I believe in that stuff, like you were saying, energy doesn't necessarily die. I feel like you go from one, just like we talked about before, aliens might just be 3,000 years old. You know what I mean? You never know, because it's like we might just be evolved that far. Because if you die, do you die? Do you die, or do you just fall into oblivion?
Here's an example of something. If you take a laser or a high-powered light and you shoot it at the sky, that energy from that light, you flick the light off and the light stops. But yet those photons are still traveling through space. They might dissipate, but they keep going for how long? Forever. And so with your energy from your soul, your body, I mean, it so many people have had afterlife experiences near death, and they I don't know, it's it's something that I like to delve into and go into. The other things I want to explore, like the upcoming episodes, the alternative energy. Do you ever get to hear stories about people who come up with inventions or ideas for products and things like that, and they get squashed? What's your take on that?
I feel like some stuff's suppressed. I mean, just when you start messing with certain things, you're messing with big business. You're messing with big money, and I feel like when you get to that point, I mean, they don't want you really butting your nose in that stuff. So I think a lot of people, the bottom line is it's all money. It's all money. If you come up with something that's going to save people massive money and screw up their whole game plan and their pocketbook, they're not going to like it, and they're going to do everything they can to stop you. So that's my belief, and I believe that there has been some pretty amazing things done as far as alternative energy goes, but you probably won't see it anytime soon. You know, I'm very surprised that they're talking about making cars run off water. You know,
Over hydrogen.
and mostly because that's been done in the past by normal Joe Schmoes and didn't end so well. So the fact that the big dogs are now going to do it doesn't really surprise me too much.
Because they figured a way to monetize it.
Yeah.
So if you were to go to a hydrogen filling station and you went to the back of your car and you took out a fuel cell and you bought another one, you just exchanged theirs for one that they just sold you, and you power up your vehicle and leave, and you're out of there and you can drive. I researched this a little bit. Hydrogen fuel cell cars are looking at ranges of between 1,000 and 1,500 miles on one filling, and for a fraction of the money of gasoline. And the emissions, I mean, whether you buy into the climate change or global warming, it doesn't matter. It's still better for the environment. The one thing that it does do, it defeats a lot of people we buy oil from. And the oil industry would have to morph over or it's going to go away. I mean, can you imagine working at Kodak or Polaroid, you know, and camera phones come into existence, and you've been working at this factory your whole life, you've been making film, and all of a sudden within 7 to 8 years, it just phases away. And the whole business just shrinks and just goes away and becomes something else. That's happened historically through like something will get invented or something, you know, will happen, and then industry just goes away.
It is crazy to think about something that large and that big just going away.
Did you see in the news that the Chinese came up with a quantum computer that's way ahead of anything that we've done?
Oh, really? No, I know we have some quantum computers that are pretty good. That's
Yeah.
why. Yeah.
And Microsoft has now come up with a chip, but a lot of the technology that we're talking about these UAP, whatever these things are, if they're an alien spacecraft, alien like drones, they're mapping the star systems or whatever, or this is our technology that we re-engineered off of something we found and we're just playing around with it, kind of thing. Either way you go, something's going on, but it seems like we're making technological leaps like really fast right now. And I think with it, if you combine quantum computing with AI, which they're going to be doing, it'll be interesting what's going to happen in 10 years. Yeah. So,
I mean, that's especially with AI because it's so unpredictable.
with back to UAPs, how do you think they're getting here? Let's play the pretend game, right? Some people out there are like, no way, it can't be. Let's say these are some alien civilization or civilizations plural, right? And they're coming here because I want to delve into this. Like, you know, the government has come out and released videos. There was ATIP. I mean, this is not like some kind of fantasy thing that the government was doing, or, you know, some, you know, high school kids in a basement that, you know, cooked up a gag. The government put a lot of effort into this, and there's, you know, films of Navy pilots and different pilots chasing these objects. Now that they have a website set up for the military to report without, you know, prejudice or, you know, being called crazy. There's like 400 reports a year now from different agencies in the military of UAP devices. I watched one amazing video. I had the pleasure of meeting Eric von Däniken. That's the guy who wrote the book Chariots of the Gods. And I met him at Contact in the Desert. He showed me a video, and one of the videos that was released by ATIP was a video I looked at like a long time before it was released. And it showed an alien looked like an alien drone, round object going across the water, and it was just hauling. And you could see the symbols, um, whoever was filming it. There was the knots and the distance, and there was numbers, and this thing was just cooking along. And it's not a conventional aircraft. It's not a helicopter. It's not anything that we know about. But this technology, how do you think they're getting here? I mean, there's so many different theories, but I mean, in your opinion, because I mean, when we go looking for this stuff, we're gonna have to. There's got to be a science behind what's being done.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have any idea, but I've always kind of believed, I had this whole kind of half-half belief system that, that UFOs were just, or UAPs was just from here, that military has them, and then there's always been the other side, which is like, nah, they're coming from somewhere else. And I would say, and that's why when we talk about how fast they travel when we see them here, well, think about how fast they have to travel just to come here. So if for them, because I don't know where they're coming from, but if they're coming from another planet or coming from somewhere else, to travel here, they're gonna have to have a pretty sophisticated machine to get here. So for them to get here and then we see them and go, wow, these things are crazy. I bet they are, but they're just way beyond us. And I think that just the advancement, we're kind of looked at as intelligent species. I believe that, even the observers that come here are like, wow, who the heck are these people? How the heck have they done so much? But then I look at them and I think, well, I mean, you guys are way more advanced than we are, So I don't know. I don't know how they're coming up with that. That's why I think that they are advanced, aged.
I can say this because it's public domain. 60 Minutes did a segment on this.
Mm-hmm.
And they had Lou Elizondo on there, the former head of ATIP, who quit because he was going to members of the government and saying this is something's going on here, and they would blow him off. They would be like, "Oh, those are angels or demons, and those aren't real." But he says, "No, this is something that's happening," and he actually resigned and left because nobody was listening to him, and then he went ahead and went public with everything. But when you look at a lot of the technology behind this, 60 Minutes did a segment. This is 60 Minutes. This is a pretty conservative news show. And at the end, they said that they from their sources and their experts they talked to, we're talking about technology is 50,000 years more advanced than we are.
Yeah.
So you're talking about, you've seen like movies where they create wormholes, Rosenstein Bridge, or they fold space time. Okay, you're talking about that kind of technology where they're traveling from some vast, huge distance that's 20 million light years away, and they're here within 45 minutes.
It's kind of how I picture it, though. It really is. Like I picture them at a different level. I mean, I was watching Congress talk just last month, maybe 2 months ago, about basically revealing all the stuff they know about UFOs. And so the military guy was saying to the Congress, hey, let's just tell them, I think they can handle it. Let's do it. Let's release it. Let them know. And then the people were saying, come on, we don't even know if you know what you're talking about. And the guy says, okay, just so you guys know, you know how we see a UFO every once in a while? It's 100 times worse than that. That's what he said. The UFOs that we see in our airspace is a daily occurrence, many times a day. That's what he said. You only hear about one every once in a while. These things happen on a daily occurrence all day. And so he was trying to say this is so much worse than people think as far as their visibility here and how often they're spotted. He's like, people don't see them like we do, but we know. And we want to tell people that it's a daily thing.
There's a lot of activity over the oceans. If you were an alien civilization and your sun went supernova or become a red dwarf or swelled in size, and it was about ready to engulf your planet and kill your planet, you would leave and go find another place to be. But if you found a planet where there was very primitive people or beings there, who wouldn't be very accepting, it would create chaos. You'd probably want to keep a low profile. So all these devices that I've been seeing from the videos of ATIP look like they have stealth technology that's way beyond us. What about having a base in the ocean?
At this point, especially, I believe that.
Yeah.
I definitely believe that.
The reason why I bring this up is if you wanted to stay hidden and you have the right kind of, I mean, if you could fold time space and you could withstand, extreme pressures. We're talking about vehicles that move like from 0 to 25,000 miles an hour on a drop of the dime, or make right angle turns. If you have that type of technology, I don't think it'd be too far fetched to put a city or a colony on the base of the ocean floor, because we know more about outer space than we do inner space. So if you take the globe and you flip around the other side of the planet, it's just all water. So that'd be a great place you didn't want to be, upset the locals. Just, build your new homestead.
And if that's the case, they're not coming from that far away. You know what I mean? So,
well, the thing is the frequency of, because the military has never been keeping tabs on this. The governments in South America accept this as they accept it as like normal, these sightings. But I don't think anybody's ever kept tabs on like how many sightings have happened in, say, 2000 to 2025. Is it going up every year, or is it staying the same? If it's staying the same, then what's going on? They're
yeah, I have no,
for whatever reason.
Yeah, I have no idea.
There's mysteries like, say, for cattle mutilations. What's your spin on that?
I don't know. I heard that's a popular thing in Oregon for some reason. I don't know why, but I was reading about that. I heard that happens in Oregon quite a bit. Yeah, I don't know why Oregon, but I've heard it's been happening a ton in Oregon. Yeah. So, but that's just, to me, experiment stuff. I think they can either do that on us or they can do it on animals. I think the whole cow stuff is merely, or they're obviously, like we talked about before, they're talking about they're taking stuff from them, certain organs, certain things from them that they need, and I don't know exactly what,
So if you're an alien civilization and you're at the bottom of the ocean, and the indigenous population would never accept you because humanity has never had first contact with the alien race. Okay. And in the 1930s, Orson Welles did a radio show, and people thought across the nation that we were being invaded by Martians. And there was people shooting guns at the sky, people packing up their vehicles and heading into the hills. And it created a panic, okay? Because people thought it was real. They had no idea it was just a radio show, right? And religious belief systems and just how the planet's, the government's role. I think that it's so integrated now into mainstream media and movies. I don't think there'd be much reaction in the Western world. But in other countries, like, say, for example, areas like the Middle East and Africa and places like that, and other areas as well, I think it would create huge ripples.
Yeah, because they don't handle even magic too well. You know what I mean? Like you take magic over there and just show them show them a balls in your hand and then they're gone. They're like looking at you like you're a demon. They don't like that stuff at all. They look at that stuff as black magic and they think it's bad.
Do you think it's possible? Because a lot of the ancient alien folks, I've met them and been involved with them. Do you think it's possible that we've been visited before in the past?
Yeah, definitely.
So there's a lot of structures across the planet that are unexplainable.
Yeah. And I also feel like, Like tomorrow, a gray could come down tomorrow, start walking through downtown Olympia. Okay? Literally just start walking through all the people. And people are going to start looking at that guy going,
He's wearing a costume.
what the heck is that? And then it might make the local newspaper, it might make the news even, but it'll just somehow vanish. It's not going to actually hold any weight. He could literally show up and just walk through the city. It's not going to hold any weight. You probably won't see any home footage of it. You're just going to hear stories. And that's why it's so hard to grasp onto things, because nothing really lasts like that. People, it just gets swept. And then people go, oh, that's not real. And it's hard for us to believe that stuff to begin with, right? So if I just told you I saw an alien yesterday before I came into work today, you're going to be like, oh, yeah?
I'm out of anybody. I think you probably know the most.
I was just going to say, you might actually believe it because, I wouldn't just lie to you about that. But still, like, it's just hearsay only goes so far is what I'm saying. And it's tough to believe in something when people are trying so hard to bury it all the time, And when it comes to that particular subject, I feel like it literally can land in your front yard and they're just going to cover it up.
An idea for something. If we were to take a formation of drones and did mathematical patterns and actually we get up to Mount Adams and actually throw some signals up to the sky. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, it sounds kind of kooky, but but how else would you'd use mathematics to communicate or pictures of some sort? Yeah. Because how else would you initiate communication?
Yeah. I have no idea. Yeah. Never even thought about it, because I can't even. If we even see anything that looks remotely like UFOs, I'm gonna trip out. Because as far as I'm concerned, lately, you're talking about like, go to my buddy's house and he's like looking at that, going, look at that. And I think he's just sitting above the house. I'm like, that's just a blinking star, That thing is just blinking. It's just shining brighter than the rest. That's all that is, And he's like, that's a UFO. And I'm like, no.
Well, there's ATIP came up characteristics to differentiate a UAP, and having the ability to stop, fly at an unconventional speed, whether it's super slow or super fast, which met the criteria of what we saw in Yelm, and also be able to make a right angle turn and just stop. When we saw the object we saw, I got pictures of it too. It did not make any noise at all. It has an aura around it, like the ATIP photos have, right? It has an aura around it. Everything, and it's like a box, like a rectangular box, and it was rotating, and then would spin itself a different direction, but it was spinning, but it was very slow, but it was very methodical about how it was traveling. It was really high up, because to me it didn't look like it was moving very fast. But when it landed on the Cascade Mountain Range, when it started landing, I was like, okay, well, the show's over. And my daughter's reaction to this day, she's blown away by it. So.
Well, one of the things I was going to bring up on Shoot the Messenger, might as well bring it up because this is the same subject, is they say this is a conspiracy theory, but they say during the Apollo 17 flight, they ran into aliens, and that the aliens killed them, and they never came back, and that's what happened. And I thought I've never heard that before. And I was like, whoa. So reading that last night was very interesting to me, because that's new to me. I can't imagine something like that, because I don't think about us actually running into anybody up there. I mean, you know what I mean?
I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, so that they say it did on 17. That's all I know. I don't know who was on 17. They just said it was Apollo 17, and
the two Voyager crafts have left our solar system, and there's a new boundary that they're describing, but man, they're billions of miles away. Yeah. I remember when they launched, I was probably like 14 or 15 years old. Mm-hmm. I'm old. Yeah. These things have been traveling for a long time. They have a disc. Both of them have a disc. Man, I'll go, it's a record, but there's also pictures of where the craft came from on the disc, and a man and a woman, standing and waving. So it's an invitation card to come say hello. And there's 2 of them up there.
Wow.
So, a lot of people don't, you know, what's funny is the other day when Jimmy Carter passed away, it's mentioned to somebody, I go, President Carter passed away, and this individual's about 25, and they go, who?
Yeah.
And I go, it's one of the presidents that was still alive. He made it to 100, and he passed away. No idea who he is.
He was still traveling around all over the place.
Oh, he was building houses and doing, you know, a man of faith. But it was rough watching. I mean, making it to 100, and he could was in that wheelchair. They kind of had him lean back. I mean, to be in that kind of state. That's why I mean, alternative medicine and biohacking is so intriguing to me, because you know, I'd like to be in my 90s and just, you know, not
still kicking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing, because people always say, "Oh, I want to live to 120," but like, what, you want to be miserable at 120 though? I mean, you know, David said from Pinnacle when he was on here, he was saying that we probably do have the stuff to make us live that far now, but not sustainable, not in like a good way. Correct. Like we can live to 150, but like it's not going to be pleasant.
Now, we did that footage up at Pinnacle, me having that biohacking procedure done.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to be, you know, putting together a series on that. Do you think we should have David back on, talk a little more in depth, because they're doing more and exciting things up there?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, how did you feel about that interview? I mean, with David.
He did good.
Well,
I like David. He's got an interesting business. I mean, there's not a lot of that around. I mean, I personally haven't been to anywhere like Pinnacle Health, so it's definitely like nothing I've ever seen. It's like a little doctor's office for alternative medicine.
Yeah.
You know,
it's better to prevent something than allowing it to happen. So what do you think about contacting ghost hunting groups? Excuse me, and then UFO spotters and MUFON, that kind of thing. What are your feelings on this? Because I know I throw these things at you. Like, I never forget the day I was like, hey, we're going to go out and let's go interview, you know, people that are homeless on the streets, and let's find out their perspective and their story and give them a voice and let them be heard, right? Because or how difficult it is for them. How can we? And the reason why I wanted to do Unseen Americans was not to put shine a light on it. How can we get out of this as a country? Like, how can we help these people? But at the same point in time, how can we prevent it from people going that direction? What caused them to get there? What are the symptoms of it? And I remember you were kind of was apprehensive about going out a little bit, right? But once you did it, was like that first interview with Sean O'King. It has 69,000 views, and you were blown away by the humanity of the man, and that you're an artist, right? And all your friends, I mean, you know, awesome people around you are artists too, but you were so surprised that Sean was a poet, and you gave him his humanity with. How do you feel about these other like? I mean, not too many people bring up like, hey, let's go film UAPs and what have you. Let's see if we can communicate with them and get it on film.
Yeah, no, it's an adventure to say the least. I mean, definitely doing things that I've never done before. You know what I mean? I come from the music world, so you know a lot of my stuff is music videos and you know, and a lot of you know, graphic design and audio video stuff. So being able to go and, you know, out of my element and do things like that has definitely been fun. That's why the whole Matt Adams trip will be fun. It'll be fun anytime we go somewhere to get footage, you know, because we do it here, but like you said, how long are we going to be able to just stay around here doing this stuff before we got to just go? Like, we're going to Seattle here pretty soon.
That's going to be an adventure.
So we just got to start breaking out and trying to find new stuff, you know.
What do you think would be, for how many days do you think we should film in Seattle?
I would say it kind of depends on how it goes. You know what I'm saying? Like when we get there, hopefully things would go well. Like I said, it's kind of a lawless city at this point. So if we go there and things are fine and we can find lots of homeless people there, that's definitely not going to be the issue. It's just finding people that want to talk. Because that's one thing we've learned on the streets is they're all there for different reasons. Some want nothing to do with you. And some actually want a voice. I mean, like when we talked to Lonnie was so glad just to freaking be able to talk to us because he had stuff on his chest he wanted to get off, you know? But not everyone's like that out there. So as long as people are receptive to it and we can get the people to come on, I feel like, yeah, we just keep going. Because we're going to keep going regardless. But where we find these people is going to be part of the journey.
How did you feel about Vince's interview that we did here in the studio?
I liked it. I kind of wish he would have touched on the Nick situation a little more. I had a few people bring that up to me after they watched the interview. Thought that the interview was interesting, but wish he would have talked more about the Nick thing. Because they were like, we didn't even really hear him talk about that at all in the interview.
He dances around it because he he wants acknowledgement. He doesn't want anything out of the guy. But at the same point in time, he has no proof. Nobody's ever said, yeah, exactly. I got with your mom. Or, oh, yeah, I remember her. And he was adopted. He was horribly abused.
And that's why when I did the title on it, I put Vince Nolte with a question mark. Yeah. And I originally said to Case, you think that's rude? And he's like, no, because even he doesn't know. So it's not disrespectful or anything.
He surprised me. He said if he finds out if he's not, he'll apologize to him.
Yeah. Okay.
Which,
good. I thought it was interesting when Vince said he went to his house, heard Nick on the other side of the fence say, Vince, go home. Thought that was interesting. Yeah.
Well, he was also, I guess Nolte was having an argument with his wife or something like that. They're having a blowout.
Because that's Vince's way of saying, hey, he knows who I am. If he didn't know who I am, he wouldn't have said that. Right?
True.
So that's why he's like, he definitely, because I was like, does he know? I asked him that, does he know who you are? And he said, he'd call me by my name. I know he knows who I am. But he's not sure. He's not sure. And I see what you see. And my friends that watched the interview felt the same way. They're like, he really does resemble him.
I can say I was related to the Romanov family. Yeah. Exactly. I have no proof. I mean, but if there's a connection, there's a connection. But his thing, I mean, if he's not related to him, man, he sure does look like he's in a lineage somewhere.
Yeah. He's an interesting character. It was rather heartbreaking seeing the amount of abandonment that he's gone through for one person. Like that's too much. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that deal with abandonment, but not on the level he has.
With a lot of the people that have, and the one thing that I've noticed that it seems to be a common thread, there was traumatic events in childhood. Have you seen what I'm talking about as well with the interviews you've done? Mm-hmm. They talk about, who'd be a really good person to follow up on, and I'm rooting for him, heart and soul, Wiley. Do you think Wiley would, come to a studio? We could sit down and talk with Wiley.
Yeah, he wants to. We've talked to him. He wants to come back. He doesn't feel like his first interview did him justice. I told him it was great. Casey told him it was great. He just, he feels like he has certain things he wants to touch on. I did read a lot of the comments on his post when he posted the video. He wrote his opinions on it, and when Wiley posts, it's like, so he posted his opinions on it, and a lot of the comments were, hey, I love when you talked about the sobriety or the addiction part or whatever, but I wish you would have went in more on this part or this part. And so he was vowing to all of his friends that he will touch on those things more in his next interview. So I can tell he definitely wants to come back in.
Is he got himself squared away where he was talking about going back to...
Yeah, Evergreen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that happening yet for him?
As far as I know, I haven't talked to him about it. I just saw his post when he said he got accepted at school and that he was excited about his next step in his journey. So I was like, good for you. So that's as far as I know. As I know is he going to school for something and that he got accepted. which is good for him. He needs that. As far as housing goes and all that, I have no idea his situation. I don't know if he's going to be on campus or find somewhere else to go or what.
It seemed that the more he was successful with sobriety, the more the resources just started to thin away. Did you get the same spin
Yeah.
from other people as well? We talked to them about that.
Yeah, mostly Wiley, though. Wiley's the one that expressed the most about that. The other guys seemed like they were all dealing with addiction still. You know what I mean? Wiley is clean. You could tell. The other ones were still dealing with. Like you could see, how bad Sean had the shakes just from alcohol. You could see George was still struggling with what he was dealing with. You could see Lonnie told us that he wasn't doing meth anymore, but was dealing with that. So they all had some kind of addiction issue going on at the time. Wiley had been clean over a year when we talked to him. So he came from a different perspective.
Yeah, and that's once a person, in my opinion, has gone past 1 year trying to struggle at getting out of addiction or some behavioral issue, your body is a copy of a copy every 8 months. Once you make it past the 8 month part, biologically, in my opinion, you're way more apt to keep going. Or if you hit 3 months and you're out of rehab in 3 months, your heart I don't think rehab programs are long enough, in my opinion. I mean, there's one religious organization that's kind of religious, but they have the highest success rate of breaking addiction of any rehab program on the planet. And their rehab program is a minimum of 8 months.
And and holding them accountable, like we talked about before with treatment and drug court and all that, just holding them accountable. That's why, like, it takes a certain amount of time, like you said, and so if you can keep them on a schedule for a certain amount of time, I believe they can do it too. But you got to threaten them with jail time. You got to threaten them with like things that scare them, and you got to scare them straight, because if not, like, what's the repercussions? With no repercussions, there's nothing to worry about. Death ain't even enough for a lot of them. They don't care.
I think you're at a point that their brains will rewire themselves from the addiction. You're not even dealing with a person who's thinking on a rational basis. Exactly. Their priority is the addiction. Yeah. So we've touched on that. What other topics or things you'd like to delve into?
I don't know. I think for the most part, we've done a good job at spreading out talking to people like Jay, who dealt with the whole VA stuff.
I'd like to do more of that.
The PTSD stuff. You had Dr. Leo, you had David, who basically just does all the alternative medicine stuff. You had Trish, who's an accountability coach. You have so we've done well at finding the intellectual conversations that you were looking for. I don't know how you got Jenna. So those are all different walks of life, and I like that. I like that.
Let me ask you a question. When she said she was in the Capitol building 2 minutes and 8 seconds, that just stuck in my brain. How did it come across to you? And then she had a sentence in federal prison for 60 days.
Kind of like, I kind of had mixed emotions. I felt like one was, well, you follow a crowd into the White House, because she's like, I didn't even know where I was going, kind of, yeah. But I'm thinking in my head, you knew where you were going. Like in my head, I'm thinking, if I'm following a group into this place, I know where I'm headed. But when you get there, and then you're like, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm out of here. I've been in for 2. Because she even said that in the interview. She said, I looked around and I was like, I'm not trying to get maced. I'm not trying to go to war with these people. I'm out of here. She said, my friends went that way and I went that way because I didn't want to be part of that crowd. And so she was very adamant about how.
But the part that grabbed me the most is the doors are wide open. Yeah. There's a police officer who's talking to her, engaging her in conversation. Didn't say, hey, I wouldn't go in there if I were you, because you might be looking at charges if you do. Yeah. But don't you think that's
That's a good point.
2 minutes and 8 seconds equals 60 days?
Well-
I got people doing drugs in front of our studio,
Yeah.
and I can't even get the police to show up.
No, she's right when she said I felt like they used me as like a scapegoat because there was a lot of people there. They could.
I think that she has.
They definitely could have
she's
used.
correct.
Yeah.
I don't know, wouldn't use the word scapegoat. I think that what they were trying to do is make a political statement. But at the same point in time, we wrote off that was the COVID era. We had wrote off like riots and massive civil upheaval and violence. I don't think the media and just the judicial system went after. I mean, it shows me that there's I think there's a problem in America. I think the scales are tipped. I don't think that I didn't find that to be fair justice.
I think she just stuck out. Like they saw the pretty blonde in the crowd and just went after her. I really do. I think they looked for the right face and were like,
or the media.
That's the media did. Yeah.
Help villainize her. Exactly. So she made that post, right? That's just like standing next to a broken whatever, and taking a picture by it doesn't constitute you were part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they could have took the guy in the
shaman.
Yeah, and they could have.
He's released now.
And they looked for certain people. You could tell they went after him and her, and then they had this. It was just a game they were playing. It really was a game. I don't necessarily. I was interested when she said that she met the guy on Facebook. The guy offered to fly her down there on his jet, and you know what I mean. And then she didn't even know him. They go down there. She doesn't even know really what the heck's going on. She thinks she's just going to a rally, and then all this happens. And so, but one thing about her is, and I mean no disrespect by this, but she definitely wasn't backing down. And I don't think that was helping. Yeah, I think when they would ask her a question, she was just like, "So what? So what? You got a problem with it?" Type. And I think that they were just running with that. They were running because I would read articles before we brought her on. I would read Reddit articles about her, and they were all like, "Oh, Janet Ryan's coming out with a book," and there was all these people that just can't stand Janet Ryan. And I'm thinking, I didn't even know she was that important. You know what I mean? Like that is that is interesting to me.
You really look at it one aspect. Jenna Ryan is an American citizen. She, votes, pays taxes. I remember back when that whole thing was going down like that, and I thought to myself, how was the election faked? Because you don't think like that. But after this last landslide election that President Trump got, it kind of makes you wonder. Yeah. It does. It kind of makes you wonder. And it kind of makes you wonder if, people who are in power are like, for the judicial system and what have you, if it's a weaponized or politicized judicial system, depending on who's in the driver's seat every 4 years, which is scary.
Go look at the Open Society Fund. So, Soros. See, he has a giant fund open for anybody that wants to cause problems. Anybody. Classic. Yep, just go to the website. It's got $1 billion in there. Want to make some money and cause chaos in the U.S.? Go get some money. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, it's an open account. And that is literally just for that. Just to cause chaos and destroy this place from the inside out. And that's why I've never been a Soros fan. I can't stand him. He's literally tried to destroy every country he steps foot in. And so that whole mentality of just being able to pay people to just cause problems, I don't trust media. I don't trust any of that stuff at all. Money does the same thing with them. I don't trust it. So, and when all this COVID stuff and all this stuff, watching people take sides just off of these political sides, just off of their investments or their interest, it's crazy to me. I don't even believe half the people that say what they say on the news believe what they're saying. They're just paid to say it. I don't think they care. Good example, Target, when we did the whole DEI thing and everyone was being inclusive, they just went and put out their whole entire like rainbow collection and all their DEI stuff all over Target, right? And some people liked it, some people didn't. Cool. I don't care what side you're on, okay? Then, as soon as the DEI stuff got lifted and people were like, no, we're not for that, what'd Target do? Got rid of everything. Went right back to all their like sports gear and all the regular stuff they have. What happened? Why'd you guys change your mind all of a sudden? They just going with the flow. They don't believe in that stuff either. They're just marketing to what they know is going to work. When Mark Zuckerberg, first thing he did when Trump got in office, he got rid of his third bathroom. So now Facebook no longer has a gender neutral bathroom at their office anymore. That's why everyone's like, don't go to Facebook anymore. Ban Facebook. Boycott Mark Zuckerberg. He took the bathroom out of their bathrooms. They used to have 3, now they have 2, right? It just shows you they're playing the game. When it's the game's ready to be played and it's going to be profitable, they're down to play the game. But is it genuine? Not at all. Not at all. And that's my whole issue with this whole political game. People aren't even genuine about it. It's just about money. They got to protect their money. They got to protect their investments.
How do you think we reunite as Americans? I mean, we've got so many things going on. I mean, we went from UAPs today to this, but I mean, there's so many things more grandiose than what's going on here, and America was a beacon for the planet of, like, we're the good guys. And all of a sudden now we can't even seem to agree on turning left or turning right.
That's why it's so hard even now to say, like, oh, I'm independent. Because, like, are you really? I know so many people that say that I know they're not, I'm one of those people. Mm-hmm. I've always said that. I've always said I'm independent. Am I truly independent now? No. I lean right. Yeah. I'm not being honest if I say that. I'm just not. Yeah. So I would love, because I do want to be independent. I do want to ride down the middle. That's why I say that, because that's my intentions. I don't want to be on either side, but certain policies and behaviors push me a certain way, and that's how I ended up leaning right.
Do you think there's a government within the government?
Yeah, I believe in shadow governments and all that. Yeah.
It seems really weird how the media polarizes us, depending on what channel you're watching. It's almost like they're programming you to think a certain way. Mm-hmm. That whole thing with the detainees going back to Colombia, and then different news agencies, and I talked about this on Shoot the Messenger. It was like 5:30. It was like 7 hours after everything was done. And they were still reporting that, that a negative view of it, and had been resolved. Colombia's president or what have you said, yeah, we'll come pick them up. Mm-hmm. And within 1 hour changed it, or hour or so changed his mind. Yeah. And that was on X. I had friends of mine that are on there all the time texting me. And but what's funny is it comes on to things like that, and then all of a sudden it trickles into the social media, into the media, the main media on TV, almost like 8 or 9 hours later, and then they flip to something new. And it's almost like that they do it for shock value, and but at the same point in time, what they're doing is they're polarizing people and getting people riled up. And we had the President's Day protests here up at the Capitol, and somebody rode by with Trump stickers in their car or something like that, and I guess people got a little bit upset. What was your spin on that? You were there with Casey. I mean,
yeah, we drove by and we saw all the people there, and it was a bunch. It's just like what you picture. I mean, it was a bunch of Olympians. We'll say that. With signs. You could tell it was a very one-sided protest. You know what I mean? So, yeah, and as far as There was no, when we were there, we didn't see any Trumpers at all there. Case left, or I came back. Case went back out because I had to do some editing. He went back out and saw people come out that were Republicans and getting into bickerments and getting arguments with people out there over, opinions. Because that's the thing, when I see the signs and I drive by, it's hard for me to even go like not say anything sometimes because it's gibberish. Some of it I read it and go, that's not true. And you're driving by and you want to mind your own business, but you read the sign and you go, dude, that's not true. Like, I want to say something to you about that because that's not, do you believe that? Because you're holding this sign up proud, but that's not true. Where did you hear that at? So, those kind of things, I'm like, where are you getting your news at? But we know where they're getting their news at, and that's really what comes down to it. And I don't really stick up for either side when it comes to news because news is news. They're always going to be biased on their own side. We have a friend named B who only watches Fox News 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day, no other station. He doesn't watch cartoons. He doesn't watch movies, Netflix. He only watches his whole family, him and his mom and his brother. It's all they watch. And is he brainwashed? 100 million%. 100 million%, yeah. And it's Fox brainwashed, so he loves Trump and he loves his side. But try talking to him in any other aspect, though. He's not going to break on nothing. That's the problem. As much as I agree with a lot of the stuff he agrees with because he's watching Fox, I would rather watch Fox than any of, the other ones. I still am kind of like, bro, you can't just watch that because I can't even, he won't budge on anything, and if you're a Trump supporter or something, you have to be realistic still. If he does something you don't like, you got to be able to admit it. Just because you like him doesn't mean you can all of a sudden act like he never done nothing wrong in his life. So it's like people got to be realistic and learn to think for themselves. You have to. You have to. If you just sit and listen to everyone else, you're just, I don't know. That's why the whole facts over feelings thing is so deep to me. Real simple, but very deep. Because facts, you can't defeat. Feelings hold no weight. Zero. So.
But do you think that mainstream media is almost like it's like a puppet agencies, depending on what hands playing the strings?
Yeah, I just think it's money. I really do. All money, all interest, all political interest in money. Even Trump, all of them, every single one of them. They all have interest, and it just is what it is. You just have to pick a side, And some people are like, well, you don't have to pick a side. Well, you kind of do. You live here. You have to vote for something. You have to, and when I say vote, you have to root for either life to be like this or life to be like this. But you live here. It's going to affect you somehow. That's why when people always say, how did you get into politics? Eventually, as you grow older, you start to care about politics because you actually live here. It starts to affect your paycheck. It starts to affect your life. Once that happens, you start to actually care. But when you're a kid, people are like, why don't kids care about politics? Because they're not paying bills. They don't care about none of that stuff.
They're in their own world.
Yeah, they don't care.
And they should be.
I agree. They shouldn't care about politics. I agree.
With everything that we have as a country now, I think to bring unity back in this country, we need to get the toxic messages out of the media and start focusing on how to solve problems, bring unity to the country, right? And do things that are productive. One of the examples, with Doge right now, and I'm a big Elon Musk fan. Yeah, I know, everybody. But at the same point, he has a track record of getting stuff done. He does, and making things happen. Whether or not you like the chef making the food, he still produces the meal. If we're fighting fraud in the government, and this came out during the Biden administration, there was like $236 billion worth of fraud the inspector generals couldn't control or couldn't get to. And we're trillions of dollars in debt, and we're sending money all over the planet to this and this and that. And other countries are not chipping in because they basically view America as like the fat cat rich dude that went out to dinner with everybody. He should just pay. How do we get people are so mad now that agencies are being cut, companies get bloated, and I know I've had businesses. And they get you're not making a profit. You better start making a profit because you have to pay the taxes. I mean, and you get yourself to a point where it's either that or the ship sinks, and the country is out of control. I mean, it's so far into debt, and it's like a shopaholic, a drunk shopaholic that went to the mall with an unlimited credit card. And there's no problem all because the card just keeps working. Eventually, it's not going to work. I was standing in line talking to a lady at the bank, and she was talking about about Doge and they're going to get money. Like Social Security is going to go away. They're going to bankrupt Social Security. I hate to tell you this. The country's already bankrupt. It's already in big trouble. And if we don't rein it under control, and I listened to a couple of economists talk from different avenues. I don't get all my news from one spot. I listen to multiple different agencies, and then I'll think it through myself. If you have something that's out of control, and employees are milking the clock, and there's spending that's going on that's wasteful, and you have people ripping you off internally in the company, you have to put a normal company to shut all that nonsense down immediately. And then so why do you think people are so uptight? I think we should do some interviews about this.
Yeah.
I mean, they're finding problems? Is it that you don't think that a billionaire, then who should be doing it? Somebody who could be bribed? Or somebody who could be swayed by money? Because, I mean, he's got plenty of it.
It goes to what I was just saying. The emotional side, okay, we'll leave it at that, is losing their mind. That's what's going on. The emotional side. When I say facts and feelings, facts isn't enough for them. They're emotional. They get wrapped up in their feelings, and they don't like that. And it's either my way or the highway for a lot of them, and that is what's causing that. They don't care if it's legit. They don't care if it's actual. They're really finding things and they're telling them the truth. It's not their side or their team, and they don't care. And they're throwing a fit. And that is why I was saying I kind of got pushed to the right. That's a big reason for it.
My wake up moment was I was watching different agencies, and you could get an emotional feel off this one, and you get them pumping you up on this one. And then I watched this thing, news agency. It's the English version of it. It's from Russian television. And
RT.
I was not going to say the name, but we just said. But we just said it.
I was guessing.
Yeah, it was 110% just like propaganda. Yeah. And they were basically telling you how to feel.
That's a big part of their game. Yeah.
Well, if you look at what they're doing, and you look at our news, and getting back to the UAPs and the paranormal things I want to delve into, because one of the things that I want to do with this isn't about whining about problems, it's about finding solutions. Or like, hey, this is going on in our country. What's causing this? And everybody right now, like, what are UAPs, right? Let me ask you a dumb question. After we just talked about, the problems in this country and humanity and the different countries, if there's aliens coming here and they don't want to contact us, would you blame them?
If they didn't want to contact us?
Didn't want to contact us, but because we're too volatile.
Yeah. Yeah, I see.
Yeah. Would you want to land on the White House lawn and say hi?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, or land at Air Force Base or someplace and
Yeah.
just say, hey, you know what? We just discovered you guys.
Just came to say hi.
What do you think would happen?
Yeah. I think, I've never even thought about that, but I bet it's rather threatening for them because, we are not that.
All you have to do is watch our news and watch our television.
They see how it is here, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. That's nothing. I've never even thought about that before.
Yeah, why would they?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So I would keep a low profile too. Well, if there's anything else you'd like to bring up today, or
no, I think that's good.
Course direction for probably the next year.
Yeah. All
right. So let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, my friend.
Doing big things,
cool.
buddy. All right.
Thank you for watching American Enlightenment. Hopefully you found this entertaining today. We've got many more episodes to come.
Hey there, podcast lovers. Dive into the world of ideas with the American Enlightenment Podcast. Follow us for mind-expanding episodes that keep you curious and inspired. Visit our website now and join the conversation.